Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Saturday, March the 11th session of the OBX Wave Report. I am Robert Scribbler, your wave reporter on all things waves, weather, climate, and beach lifestyle. And for today, we are going to talk mainly about wave conditions in the Outer Banks, but we're going to do the climate and weather stuff as well. Here, as I provide you with our opener for the wave report, I have a shot from yesterday from Jeanette's Pier of large 4 to 7 foot waves breaking off Jeanette's Pier in the misty rain of the afternoon. And here on the Outer Banks, we've had a near gale south and southwest winds, well, starting out as southeast, but then turning to the south and then the southwest as a front passed through, and we had some gale conditions in the near coastal environment and the offshore environment. And then as the front shifted offshore, we had those winds turning around to the west. And we still have a very large swell coming in from the east off the back of numerous storm systems that have passed into the North Atlantic. And this strong westerly wind is likely hollowing out those waves in some locations. I did get an indicator that waves at Buxton were in the range of 9 to 10 feet with a strong northwest wind, and that's a potential recipe for some pretty big barrels down there in Buxton, hence the title of this wave report. So we'll get into that a little bit more as we get into some analysis. I did also want to provide you guys with some climate action anecdotes. So I do drive Uber part-time. It's a really good side hustle for all the writing and reporting that I do otherwise. And um, this morning I got a request from Uber to do a survey on electric vehicles because I drive one for Uber, and then do an interview on the phone for basically how to help other drivers get into electric vehicles. And what I will say is that I really appreciate the effort by Uber to promote electric vehicles and clean energy vehicles. Um, Everyone should be right now on deck doing everything they can to help speed the transition to clean energy. So I know regardless of anything else that Uber is doing, I absolutely salute them in their efforts to promote clean energy and hope that it helps to create a snowball effect in corporations who also make choices to move more towards sustainability and clean energy and rapid climate action in the form of mass deploying clean energy. We can do it, and the more we do it, the better off we will all be. And so yeah, so just that statement there about the climate action by Uber. And I've said this before a couple of times when it comes to electric vehicles. I hear all this like fear and storm and drama about electric vehicles. It's like, oh, can you really drive them? Oh, is it okay? Is it, is it fun? Is it easy? Is it hard? Does your battery die all the time? I get all these weird questions about EVs. And what I will say is that the Tesla Model 3 has been the best purchase of a vehicle that I have ever made. Um, the value has retained its value. Um, I pay about $1 a day to charge it at home. If I need to use a supercharger, the cost of a supercharger is like about a third of what it would cost for me to get a fill up at the gas tank for an efficient vehicle. Um, I've never had an issue with a long range trip. Everyone's like, "Oh, you can't drive it long range," and I'm like, I drive like 8, 9, 10 hours into the mountains and down to South Carolina, Murrells Inlet, and if I go on a road trip, I actually want to have the Tesla because it's got this little autopilot thing that gives me a nice little respite from the constant hard focus of having to drive long distance. And when I get my new Tesla, it's going to have even longer range. Or I don't know, I might get another electric vehicle, but I really have enjoyed the Tesla. Not to say that there's not other high quality electric vehicles out there. There certainly are. And some of them look very appealing to me. So one of these days, I'm going to get another electric vehicle, and might be a Tesla, might not. But I do love the Model 3. Um, I mean, like with a fierce electrical sense of charge. I guess I don't. It's just like yeah. I mean, can you say electrical fire? Yeah. There's like a fierce electrical fire burning in my heart of love for the electric vehicles. So I will say that as well. And yeah. So yeah. So that's enough preamble, I believe. And so let's get into the wave report today and look at. I was looking at the coastal flood exposure mapper, but we're not going to talk about coastal flood exposure right now. We're not going to talk about glaciers and storms and sea level rise today, but we will one of these days. And today, I wanted to start off with this atmospheric moisture map to show you the river of moisture, the atmospheric river that's still pointing at California, just to note that you guys in California are still under the gun for heavy precipitation today. And this has now been, I think, day 3 of this most recent atmospheric river event. Massive record smashing precipitation totals for this winter. Just nuts. It's like the northern hemisphere decided to unload all of the excess moisture, and this of course is not literal, but it seems this way. It seems like the excess moisture from the hot oceans and the hotter atmosphere seem to be aimed directly at California this winter, and you can see this atmospheric river pointing directly at California like a mean finger of storm Enos that's headed their way. So you guys in California, please stay safe. Please listen to your local weather experts and your emergency management folk, and pay attention to any alerts that come your way because you got some severe weather out there right now. All right. Looking at this NOAA geocolor composite of the lower 48, we see 3 storm systems. We've got the one out west here associated with the atmospheric river. We've got a second one that was pushed in by the atmospheric river or rode in off the top of it. It is now in the central US, setting off some blizzard conditions for the extreme northern US, maybe parts of southern central Canada. And then we've got a nor'easter here off the US East Coast that is helping to provide those big waves here in the Outer Banks and is still providing some weather out here for the Northeast. Looking at the infrared satellite shot, you can see the dance of the colder cloud tops and the storminess beneath those high cloud tops. Big old swirl up here with the snowy weather in the Dakotas, Minnesota, parts of Montana, and then the stream of storms moving into California, as well as the nor'easter off the US East Coast. And looking at the radar maps, we see this massive swath of moisture, the blizzard warnings up for the Dakotas and Minnesota, parts of Montana. We do see the gale warnings up for parts of the US East Coast. Here on the Outer Banks, we still got gale warnings up, and we've got a lot of precipitation falling over parts of the Northeast, running up from New Jersey to looks like around Nantucket, and then some snows over parts of New York State as well. And then here in California, you got that stream of storms moving into north central California with flood watches and warnings up for most of central California and some winter advisories up for the mountains. And then we've got some, looks like small craft advisors and gale warnings up for the Oregon gale watches. Small craft advisories and gale watches up for the Oregon and Washington coastlines as Seattle and British Columbia get a little bit of precipitation as well. Okay, so let's get down to the local wave report and talk about waves on the Outer Banks. And let's go back on north. I'm actually going to start out with a brief anecdote, or not anecdote, brief statement on the waves at Bathhouse. Right now, the waves at Bathhouse apparently are in the range of 6 to 7 feet, so pretty big out there at Bathhouse. Bathhouse has these big, burly, thick waves. So it's probably pretty gnarly out there at Bathhouse right now with those 6 to 7 foot waves. So I did want to note that because that's the big wave spot for the North Beaches, although for the other banks right now, Buxton is the reigning king, and Buxton tends to be big. Buxton is a big boy. So, all right. But let's start out at Jeanette's Pier right now, where we've got 4 to 7 foot waves, um, which is about the same as it was yesterday. We do have those winds coming in out of the northwest at 27 miles per hour, which is offshore, which might be hollowing out those waves, cutting the tops off, kicking up a lot of spray. So we've got that going on right now at Jeanette's Pier as well. The primary swell is coming in at 14 seconds at 4.5 feet. Seems these swells are lining up really nicely with the beaches based on the reports, because the swell is smaller than the waves, and that's uh, that's indicative of a pretty ideal lineup for the swell. And the secondary swell is coming in at 6 seconds out of the north. Present temperatures at Jeanette's Pier are 44 degrees Fahrenheit. Ocean water temperatures colder with the rains from yesterday and then the winds from the west. All the ingredients for colder waters are there. So right now, water temperatures at 50 degrees. Not pleasant. Please get your wetsuits. I was out there yesterday for a little bit more than a half an hour. It got pretty frosty, got a little sluggish. I was helping new surfer out there, and toward the end of it, I was mainly just making sure they were safe and stuff like that. Watching the waves, and then watching the new surfer, just making sure they were in a good position, not getting in a position to get sucked out by a riptide or something like that, or getting hit by like nasty wedge waves or whatnot. But at the end, they asked me, "Oh, why don't you go out and maybe get some waves?" I feel kind of bad because you're just helping me out, and I was like, well, now I'm sluggish, and I'm not going to brave 4 to 7 foot waves when I've been made sluggish by the cold. So, if you do get out there, make sure you're keen, sharp, and not taking undue risks, because that cold can make you sluggish. Um, the forecast for today is sunny and windy with a high of 54 degrees. And that's for Jeanette's Pier. Let's head on down the coast to Rodanthe. It's worth noting that these beaches in the middle regions of the Outer Banks are mostly in the 4 to 6 foot range. So, Rodanthe and Salvo, for example, as you head on down to Avon, the waves pick up a little bit to 4 to 7 feet. But we're going to do a comprehensive review of Rodanthe right now. Rodanthe is in the range of 4 to 6 feet with 29-mile-per-hour northwest offshore winds. We've got a primary swell coming out of the east-northeast, 4.5 foot primary swell at 14 seconds, and a secondary swell coming in from the southeast at 6 seconds. Air temperatures are 44 degrees at Rodanthe, and ocean water temperatures cold at 52, so not much warmer in the waters down there at Rodanthe. The weather forecast today is also windy, sunny with a high of 53 degrees. Did mention that Avon has 4 to 7 foot waves, but central focus for big waves today is at Buxton with 9 to 10 foot waves reported by the wave monitors at Buxton. A northwest wind at 28 miles per hour. That is an offshore flow, which is one of the reasons why I'm saying that Buxton might be really hollow. You got that southeast, slight southeast cant and those northwest winds nearly coming directly offshore, and then those big swells coming into that northwest wind, throwing out, likely getting really hollow. And the primary swell is coming in out of the east-northeast at 14 seconds with a 5 foot swell. Must be coming in at a pretty ideal angle to be pumping up to 9 to 10 feet on the coast. And then the secondary swell coming in at 6 seconds from the southeast. Right now, air temperatures at Buxton are 46 degrees, ocean water temperature is 61, And the weather forecast today is windy, sunny, and an expected high of 54 degrees. Now, last of all, we're going to get a little report here from Billy Mitchell, just a brief report, and just to show you that the south-facing beaches right now are much calmer in the range of 2 to 3 feet. And we had thought that maybe we might go on a surfing safari today, but unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that today. But at some point, we will in the future, and hopefully, we'll get some observations as we do that. And hopefully, we'll be able to get more surfers to come with us on safari, be they new surfers or experienced surfers. We want to get all the surfers into the water, and yeah, and get them enjoying the beautiful environment, the beautiful oceans here in the Outer Banks, and frolicking with nature is just always the best. All right, so let's pull our lens back and talk weather and climate. And right now, the feature for the United States, the main features for the United States are an atmospheric river running in through California, not really visible in this temperature map, although you do see the countervailing like low pressure and high pressure that's helping to suck that river of moisture toward California. And we've got a warm air invasion, like a remnant warm air invasion of the Arctic that has pushed out some cold air onto the continent. This cold air invasion, due to the warm air displacement, is not as strong or as far south moving at least right now as was previously predicted, but nonetheless, this cold air displacement is putting cold next to hot. So we do have some potential for severe weather and severe weather zones here off the US East Coast in the form of nor'easters, and then out here in the North Atlantic in the form of very strong oceanic storms. And that's one of the things that's helping to produce those massive swells here on the Outer Banks. And then in the central US as well, potentially, because you got that cold air slamming into that Gulf moisture, and that could produce some severe weather as well, particularly if it's really unstable. And then of course the atmospheric river running in through California. So those are the three severe weather trigger slash hotspot type things. All right, so I did want to show you the global temperature anomaly map. Worth noting that today, as in most days, almost every day, the global anomaly is much hotter than normal. I have not seen a global anomaly that was below average at all this year. And very rare. I can't remember the last time I saw a global anomaly that was below average. So good luck to you cherry picking climate change deniers. You've got a lot of data to mangle to lie about climate change. But in any case, right now the global hot region is the Antarctic at 1.7 degrees Celsius above normal. A lot of extra heat in the Antarctic right now. I say hot, meaning hot relative to normal temperatures. Of course, the Antarctic is not hot by any stretch, but it's hotter than normal. It's where heat is moving. And so here in the northern hemisphere, we still have that warm air invasion of the Arctic, that displaced cold, and that feature is going to be in place for a while. It looks like that warm air invasion and cold air displacement south is going to stick around at least for the next week, probably for the next 2 weeks. And so the weather pattern presently, with a cold air moving down to the south, slamming into the warm air, warm moist air over the Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico, is still in place. And so I'm on nor'easter watch. I don't really see any major nor'easters in the model picture, but that's where I am because I'm doing the wave report here. Might want to keep an eye out for potential severe weather in the central US as well, just generally speaking. And then, of course, we've got that river of moisture moving through the Pacific, which is another feature. All right. Looking at the quantitative precipitation analysis for the next 7 days. So how much precipitation are we expected to see according to NOAA over the next 7 days, which is an indicator of where it's going to be stormy. And here, California just lights up like a Christmas tree. It's been lighting up like a Christmas tree over the past few days. Stormy, stormy, stormy for California. So yeah, atmospheric river, storms riding down the top, boom, California is going to get slammed. And there's probably a climate change fingerprint on that. We've got the potential for storminess and severe weather here near the Gulf and near the Mississippi, so south and a little bit east of central between the Appalachians and Texas. And then off the US East Coast, we have a tendency for nor'easter formation. Looking at the 8 to 14 day outlooks, the United States is expected to be looking at below normal temperatures for this period as well, with that displaced cold air from the Arctic due to the heat invading the Arctic. And looking at precipitation, most of the US is expected to see above normal precipitation from March 18 to 24, with the exception being the Great Lakes region. And then looking at convective outlooks for the next 3 days, we do have some risk of severe weather between Texas and the Appalachians, focusing in on Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, parts of Tennessee and Kentucky. Today, tomorrow, more toward the Gulf Coast in Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, and Georgia. And then by Monday, some marginal risk for severe weather for Florida. Nothing too crazy as yet. All right, so let's get into some model analysis. We do have a relatively strong low here off the US East Coast at 982 millibars. Nothing too crazy, no major bomb or anything like that, but it's out there. It's strong enough to kick up some major surf and to create some storminess for the US Northeast and to bring those strong northwest winds here and to set off some gale warnings. I'm going to go ahead and go roll back to the model from 6 hours ago because we don't have the full model run and I do want to get out into the future. So as we advance this model, what you're going to see is a lot of storms moving in through California. You're going to see powerful storms firing up through the central US, and you're going to see a lot of mild to moderate nor'easter activity off the US East Coast and then heading out to sea where those storms will tend to intensify. So today this storm heads offshore. We get another storm system moving in almost immediately behind it into late Sunday and early Monday with a likely nor'easter just offshore off the US Southeast coast by Monday. And then this nor'easter will linger, creating a bit of a double barrel low here later into the day on Monday, and then head out to sea on Tuesday, and then button hook back toward the US Northeast with possible very heavy snows for parts of New York, Connecticut, and Massachusetts on Tuesday. Here in the Outer Banks, the swell will tend to be big because we keep getting these storms. Out west, you get the progression of storms hitting California and then forming into relatively strong storm systems as the moisture flows over the Rockies and gets into the central US. And so another large front on Friday heading toward the East Coast and sweeping on through Friday into Saturday with some severe weather offshore. And it doesn't look like any major nor'easters forming out of that. Again, the march of precipitation continues over California with another impulse that went over the Rockies sinking down into the Gulf region by Monday of next week. Monday, March 20th, and then forming a coastal low off the US Southeast, looking rather nor'easterish here for particularly for southern North Carolina, parts of South Carolina, and then this low heading offshore as we get into Tuesday and Wednesday. And I'm just going to go ahead and end the model progression there. It's worth noting that nothing crazy severe has come up, so our nor'easter watch will continue, our severe nor'easter watch will continue, but we don't have any indicator of that in the models at this time. All right, so let's get down to the wave models. I did do the local wave reports, but I do want to provide you guys with the forecast for waves. So right now, off of the Outer Banks, we've got a large swell just offshore in the range of about 9 feet. And that's going to continue throughout the day. And then as we get into the day tomorrow, the swell will actually become more uniform from the east-northeast in the range of about 9 feet for the central beaches, 7 feet for the north beaches, and 7 feet for like as you get closer to the shore for the south beaches. So some 7 to 9 foot swells off the backside of a strong low pressure system heading out toward the central North Atlantic where we've had big bombs blow up. And it's also worth noting right now that Europe and, well, particularly Ireland, parts of Britain, parts of France, and parts of Portugal and Spain are getting some really big swells right now as well. Or they're predicted to get some big, well, they're probably, hold on, let's back this up because I said something about Europe. Yep, they're getting big swells now as well, and they are predicted to get big swells tomorrow. All right, so back to the Outer Banks though, let's talk about Monday. So Monday we got a little nor'easter coming in, nothing too crazy, but again, pulling in that easterly flow with some large swells in the range of 9 to 11 feet on Monday in the near offshore environment. And then on Tuesday on the backside of the storm, we still have a powerful swell predicted for Tuesday in the range of 7 to 9 feet, and then into Wednesday, get some northwest winds likely. Let's see where the winds are coming from. Yeah, northwest winds. So we get some northwest winds a blowing, and swell stays relatively large, particularly for the east-facing beaches in the range of 6 to 7 feet. Some of this might get blown offshore, but probably not too much. And then I don't think we get into Thursday. So the rule for the coming days are big swells. So we'll probably have some great video swells for you. We'll try to get out on the road and get some observations from up and down the coastline, and get you guys some observations of the big swells as we get into Monday and Tuesday. So thank you for joining me for this session of the OBX Wave Report. And as I typically do, I'm going to encourage you guys to please do everything you can to help speed the transition to clean energy. Um, Clean energy is just better. I mean, it's already made my life better, and I haven't fully implemented it all. You can do it on an individual level by action, but you can also do it on a systemic level with your votes and your support for organizations like 350.org, the Union of Concerned Scientists, the Friday for Future movement, and others. So we can use our voices, we can take our individual action, we can take political action, and we can do all the things. So thank you for joining me. Love you guys, and I will be back with you shortly.